Hello everyone, Joe Menza here. Thank you for joining me for another watercolor painting demonstration. I've already wet the paper down, and I'm just gonna add in a little yellow ochre, a little yellow ochre, and a little raw sienna. Sometimes I like to combine different yellows like raw sienna or yellow ochre, cad yellow. It creates a unique color all of its own. You can have three different of each color, or two different blues. You could have two different browns, two different reds, and you can kind of combine them and you'll have sort of your own unique palette of colors that only you kind of know about, which is kind of interesting. So in the middle here, I'm putting in a nice cad yellow sort of a bright area. And we're going to do sort of a reddish sky like I did in, I think it was the last video that I did. I don't know, those red-orange skies, they always create really nice drama. So we're digging into the alizarin crimson, not something I use quite a bit, but the alizarin crimson is a nice, just creates a nice reddish sky. The way it dries back when you add yellow to it, you get a sort of an orangey look. And if you ever catch those skies in the evening or in the morning when you get an orangey sky, you always stop and look. I mean, blue skies, yeah, it's nice blue skies today, but when you catch the orangey sky like this, it really grabs your attention, And so I'm adding some Payne's gray to what's already on the brush, and we're doing some gray clouds here just to kind of blend in. Now these will dry back quite a bit. Maybe I'll do a little blending, but these will dry back quite a bit. So right now it kind of looks like an oven fire or something. I don't know. But in the end, it won't look like that. We'll lift a little bit of paint out, and using the brush here, we'll take a little bit of paint back, so we just have shadows underneath. So just by taking a clean brush and just kind of dabbing it in there, we're just lifting out a little bit, kind of watering down what's already on the paper. And then I'm just going to take the soft brush here, very, very lightly. And just give it a little blend, just a little blend while it's still wet, just to kind of soften that up a little bit. And now you'll see as I soften that up what the real goal was. We got a soft sky here, so it doesn't quite look like Armageddon is coming or something. Got a nice dramatic sky, and it's sort of pinked up the red that was there. So I like blending. I mean, blending is something you often see mostly in like oil colors, but it creates a certain soft effect. I don't see too many people doing that. You're probably not supposed to. Who knows? But me and not supposed to don't get along. So we've got the yellow coming down in the middle. And we've got a nice sky going on here. We can even take a little bit more out if we want to enhance the cloud effect. And look, we've kind of softened that down a little bit. You don't want to soften it too much. Because it will dry back and then you'll have really nothing left. So that's pretty much it for the sky. And I mean, obviously when you're doing it, you can make your clouds any shape. I always have a hard time. It's, the clouds are so random, so ambiguous. And then I'm just spraying it with a little bit of spray here just to keep it wet. But, it's like we have a tendency to kind of want to arrange nature. And it's anything but arranged. So we end up like furniture, we want things organized and neat. And so clouds aren't organized and neat, and yet they are because they are so random. So now we're going to put a little bit of a mountain pattern here in using some of the, we got alizarin still on there. We'll put some burnt umber, some Payne's gray. We want this dark against the light here, and obviously we're going to do our fun scraping routine, so it's going to lighten that up. Again, just random shapes that look mountainous. And we're just taking that card and we're pulling down. And, you know, sometimes you'll take off too much. Sometimes you'll take off not enough. And you can always come back in. You have to be careful with some papers. After you do a lot of scraping, sometimes you can start scraping off the surface. So the paper can only take so much. But you can get away with 2 or 3 times. So we're just going to hit that dark area there. We got the light reflecting off the right side of the mountains. Makes for a nice contrast. And let's get some reflection possibly in there, and we'll see where that goes. Again, I do a lot of these just from imagination. If I'm following a photo, I might add it in, and if it's not there, but in the case of my imagination, I just work my way down the page, and I go with it. So just dabbing in a little darker shades there. And you can see, because we had the yellow underneath, whatever bright areas that you had above that were underneath that mountain, when you scrape away the paint, those are going to show through. The tint below will now look as though it's reflecting the mountain. The sunlight. So it's a neat trick. It really is. It's and it's fun to do, obviously. So I'm just going to start throwing in a little paint on the bottom here to create a little bit of land, using the same colors that are already on the brush. And we'll go from there. We'll have a little bit of water. By the way, this is 10 by 14 Stonehenge. It's 100% cotton paper. It's a little, I guess it's less expensive than some of the others. I do like it. I think it has a nice middle, you know, it doesn't absorb too much. It's not the highest quality paper, I guess you could say. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's 100% cotton, but sometimes 100% cotton cheaper could be a little weird, but I recommend it. I think it's a good paper, and I would buy it again. So we've got like those nice, you can call them foothills sort of coming down. It looks like feet. Looks like a couple pairs of shoes or something there. That's why they call them foothills, right? Because they look like feet. So the whole thing is really an illusion. I mean, you're trying to create sort of a 3-dimensional image in a way on a flat piece of paper. So how can we do that? You know, things like light and water, all of those things can play a role in that. And just giving you a little spray. And I just let that dry just a little bit. Now I'm just kind of taking my synthetic flat brush, just kind of dry brushing and pulling things down, and just kind of see where that takes me. Okay, so looking at this as it's drying, I noticed that it's lacking a little bit of the yellow that we had on top of the mountain. We've lost a little bit of that. So while it's still wet, I've given it the spray. We can add a little bit more back to that and keep that glow in there. So we get a nice reflection off the water. That's really what's going to make something like this, is just that nice glow. So I'm just kind of blending that in with the synthetic brush. It's a good soft brush for kind of going side to side, up, down. If you're trying to do a blending, like with the clouds, a soft brush is good to kind of make a circular motion. In the water, we don't mind if it has sort of a horizontal or vertical, because you're going to see that naturally, but in the sky, you're not really going to see lines, straight lines, so you can't really get away with that as well. And you're going for that wow factor, though. You get that glow above, glow below. It's that light that really is what's going to pull you in and make you look at that painting. You know, the goal when you do these is, you know, it's like every time you want to do something epic, right? So when you're looking at these, you want someone to look at it longer than, I mean, today's attention span is very short. People look, oh, that's nice, and then they go on. It's like a half a second anymore. But sometimes when you put something, it's you can tell their brain is processing what it is that they're seeing. So now to the left, I'm putting in a little pine tree, a couple little pine trees maybe. I'm using the Hake brush as opposed to the fan brush that I like to use, just because, you know, just to show it can be done. I mean, you know, I like to go to the fan brush. I think it's got a little more randomness to it, shape-wise. You know, I try to keep it limited amount of brushes. I do have a lot of brushes, but I try to keep it down to about 4. So we got the Hake brush, the fan brush, the rigger brush, and, you know, flat brush. I don't really use a flat brush too much unless I'm doing, you know, like a cityscape or something. To me, the more random the hairs in the brush, the better. When you're doing foliage especially, or land masses, you know. So there's another little pine tree to keep the other guy company. And dab in a little bit of cad yellow hue, or even cad yellow. If you buy the cad yellow, like artist grade from Winsor Newton, the best that they have, it's really strong. And I think, you know, cad yellow has some toxic properties to it, unless you buy one of these newer cad-free type things. But the cad yellow hue is just a pigment color on the Cotman colors. Just take a close look here in between, kind of get an idea where we're going. Give it a little spray there, just to give you a different angle. Now we'll do some land on the other side here. Just a way of kind of framing in that center section to get you to really go down the middle. And let's take and zoom in here, and we're going to do a little rock scraping underneath this tree, so it looks like a nice mound. And of course it's nice and wet, it's a dark color. And we're scraping with just really easy pressure. There's not a lot of pressure there to get that rock scraping in. And while we got it in our hand, for efficiency, we're going to do a little bit on the other side. And, you know, as you go, you can call an audible, and you don't have to stick with that if you decide it's too much, or, you know, you can always paint over it. That's the fun of painting from imagination and just letting it go on the fly. And there's going to be times you're going to want to sketch something out, and you want something to come out as close to the vision that you may have, or the photo you might have. But sometimes it's just fun to sit there and wing it. That's what I like to do, and I like to keep different elements in my mind The only issue with that is a lot of times you'll come up with the same things, you know, the same kind of pictures are in your mind. So you really have to sit down and come up with, you know, just imagine, just sit there and think of different places you'd like to be, you know. Where would you like to be? Oh, if you're by the lake, okay, what's there? You know, close your mind, kind of meditate on it and think of, you know, somewhere nice you'd like to be or somewhere you once were. So we'll do some more pines over on the side. Try to keep it a little more random. Do a little camera adjustment. I like you guys to be able to see as well as possible. You know why? Because when I was first watching videos, it's like, if it was bad quality, I mean, or it was like an angle, I was like, I really want to, I'm trying to get in there. I'm trying to see so bad what the guy is doing or the lady's doing. And I can't see, or, you know, their camera quality isn't that good, but you could tell they're really good at what they do. And I want to see everything. I want to see the palette and how he mixes and what kind of tray are you using? You know, what do you have for lunch today? You know, because you want to mimic that. But, you know, a lot of the stuff you've got to kind of do on your own, the mixing, the blending, and, you know, different things like that. But if you go over to my Patreon channel, I'm going to be showing more behind the scenes. I mean, if I'm going to spend more time going in depth with things, I'm going to do it over on Patreon, and then you can get even more in depth and see some other things. Another thing they added on YouTube is they have a applause button if you're on a desktop or laptop. And if you click on that, you can give $2 to the video creator, which is a nice little feature to try to help them out. It'd be nice if they had it on a mobile, though. I think most people are using devices today. But there's a lot of ways to support your favorite creators, Patreon, and, you know, donating to their PayPal link. And, you know, there's a lot of little things. You know, people put a lot into this. I know I tried to just support a couple of people for a couple of years when I was learning that I thought really helped me out. So just food for thought. So anyway, we're working on the sort of a bit of a reflection down below here. We'll see how that goes. So I've added a little bit of white gouache just to the bottom, just to look like a little bit of water, just so that it stands out a little bit. You don't have to do this. Sometimes I like to add just a little bit of white. I'm just working out those trees a little bit more. This is a time when you start sitting back and you start looking at, okay, where can I add some little details? Can I improve this, improve that, without fussing upon it? But I sit back and say, okay, what does it need? What stands out to me? Sometimes I'll look at something and go, wow, my eye is immediately drawn to this one spot. I've got to break that up, or there's some weird line going on. So I'm just kind of pulling down that white, trying to create a little bit of reflection look there. Sometimes you just can't, you know, you try and you try and you just can't really get what you're going for reflection-wise. It happens. I mean, you get too dark and then you just say, well, it's just kind of like a shadowy area, which is fine. You can always come back and dry brush it with a little lighter color coming down. That works too. But it's nothing like, you know, oil painting is much easier. You know, you pull down, you do a couple strokes aside, and you instant reflection, you know. But when you do those reflections, it's such an ooh and awe, oh, wow, you know. And it makes the painting look realistic. And people look at, and you know what intrigues the brain, I think, the most is when you look at a painting and then you go, am I looking at a photo or is this a painting? What is it? And then when you realize it's a painting and you go, wow, that, you know, and your brain is intrigued that it was fooled. You know, I think that's really one of the essences of, you know, the mystery of painting and why art is appreciated. It's a trick to the brain to have it question, what is it that I'm looking at? Probably why abstract got to be so popular, because it's like, what is, it's like ink blots, people want to see shapes and things. Looking at clouds passing by in the sky and seeing faces and things. So that's it. We've finished another painting here. I hope you enjoyed it. You can visit my site to get to all my links at joemenza.com. And of course, my new Patreon is patreon.com/joemenza. And other ways you can support all of us creators: leave a comment, leave a like, share the video. Those are sort of minimal ways you can do it, but everything helps. So let's take a close look here. Do a little zoom in. See the nice light coming off those trees, and I think it turned out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm never really happy with my skies. It's kind of a weird sort of War of the Worlds thing happening there, but I think it turned out pretty well. Here it is in its virtual frame. Thanks for watching, everyone.